Welcome to the Bundy Network. Alright, we're gonna have to kick it up. Like kick it right now. I haven't really done much with this channel because I want to really start building it out and it wanted to be very male centered to discuss all the things that we talk about in the manosphere as well as stuff that we might have kind of not we've neglected to discuss. Certain things that's going on within pop culture and media that directly might affect men. And one in particular I want to talk about. It's not going to affect men per se, so I don't want to go off and seem like any other YouTuber that cries about my childhood, etc., etc., etc. But I do want to discuss something that's been going on with the new Thor film series. It's a Thor 4 coming out, and it's supposed to be Jane Foster's supposed to be in it, so I understand. I'll do a follow up with it because I didn't read all the details, so forgive me right now. But I will go over the details of the story so we could do a better breakdown of it. But I really want to talk in a broad strokes on it. So this is gonna be like an entry to it, and also if I need to make any edifications, I'll make edifications on the next one. And this is gonna be part of how I want to grow this channel, so that if we speak ahead of ourselves, at least we're gonna be fair and balanced, and coming back and edifying. I really want you to get a good zest of what this channel is supposed to be about. I want to be brutally honest to both men and women. We're not gonna cut no bullshit, you know what I mean, to anyone. We're not gonna cherry pick our words so hard that we can't even come off with a very honest and sincere thought, especially when it pertains to male perspectives and male issues. Now, this is not exactly an issue, so I want to make sure I label it the proper way. I want to arrogate this. It's pop culture. It's going to be popcorn talk, so let's chop up game. Now, my cousin sent me an article referencing to Tessa Thompson getting what she want, and I saw a little bit about it anyway, about how they're going to go with Lady Thor, which I don't have too much of an issue with, because I mean, as MCU grows, it looks like something that they're trying to do in real time. So you're not gonna have these stories go on forever and ever and ever, like these guys do not age. You gotta remember the Iron Man story has been going on since what, the 60s? And if it's been going on since the 60s, perhaps the 50s, not actually, I think it's the 60s, then, and Tony was already, I don't want to say quite up there in age, but he had to have been in his mid to late 30s since the inception of the character. You know what I'm saying? So for him to exist at that age in the 60s, it still be up to current in 2019. That says a lot about the timeline. But these are comic books. They're gonna create infinite stories. They're gonna, over the years, they're gonna try their best in an attempt to refreshing the story, refreshing the characters, and maybe even refreshing the universe. So these things are all expected. So things are going in real time, and most of the MCU characters don't really get more than a trilogy in their solo series. That for Thor to have a Thor 4 was gonna come with an asterisk. In other words, what we're gonna try and do is now. I want to really explore this a little bit. I personally have absolutely no issue with it. Like I said, I mean, if we're going in real time, eventually we're going to get to Lady Thor, if that's what we're going to choose to do. Now, I'm not a believer in, and there's a guy out there like this called to say the word tokenize. Me, I don't like saying tokenize. Not because the word is not fitting. I'm not even sure if that's the accurate verbiage for it. So we'll get into that another time. But what I want to discuss is these unnatural desires to overly force characters in to make adults feel better with who they are within themselves. It, to me, when you keep pushing these agendas ahead of the story, to be honest, it comes off as a waste. We need to put more black. We need to put more LGBTQ, whatever letters they're using, I don't see a need unless the story actually quantifies for it. Or I don't want to hear you feel like you need to make me feel good about my skin tone by announcing it as if it's some big thing. Now, we could argue with Black Panther that was something very different. Historically speaking, we haven't seen a film of this magnitude given with that much. So I can understand how you want to launch it that kind of way because it was actually monumental. But now what I don't want is people to use that, which has serious and historical ramifications for it, to say this is the first LBG. No, it's not. I mean, maybe character, and even then it's like, so after we do this, we're gonna make a big deal about each person that, I mean, are we doing this as more marketing, or are we now doing this because, oh, we've gotten to this point? Now, when it came to Black Panther, it kind of made sense. Because if you're going to Wakanda, all the characters are going to be black anyway. So that's just the way it was going to go regardless. If you was going to do anything sincere to the characters, and anytime they've actually had characters with all black cast, they had to quote unquote whitewash a character too, because they wasn't sure if an all black cast would bring white folks in to go watch the film, because at the end of the day, this is a business and people like to see themselves on screen. So I get the understanding of to bring more people in, but to go out of your way and market it all the time, it starts to become an eye roll. It almost seems like if you have a very, very small demographic and you're trying to play that up, it almost seems like we're going the way of identity politics. And we don't really need that. You know, if we have if this is the first Pakistani superhero we get, that's cool to hear. But I don't want it to be, we need a new Middle Eastern character, so what we're going to do is go out of our way to, and then it's just like, I don't like that. I don't like that. It seems way too stale, way too insincere. It seems very, what's the word? Patronizing. You know what I'm saying? And with Tessa's last film just bombed. That's not her fault, but it bombed. It's on your resume. I just don't want to see us go out of our way forcing down a character, because I'll be honest with you, it's almost like saying, well, we got our first lesbian actor, and it'd be like, well, how would we even know? There was plenty of lesbian and homosexual characters that was out there. I mean, people that took the stage. Oh, but openly now. And then it's like, all right, well then, I mean, and then when you start thinking about it, it'd be like, for who you sleep with, like, whatever, you know what I mean? Then that goes right back into labeling. See, this is my conundrum with the way the world goes. Not too long ago, not that much years ago, the argument on the table was, we don't like labels. All the while we're out here labeling other people. It's something that I never really understood. It's like, I don't like labels. I don't like labels. But I want a LGBT, or I need a character that looks exactly like me. I need a Taiwanese character. Now, all of a sudden, with the advent of The Little Mermaid, you have people legitimately out here saying, well, redheads don't have enough representation. Now we're just diluting everything that we've worked hard for. Redheads? Then what's next? There's not enough black redheads. There's not enough black freckle-faced redheads. There's not enough redheads with hangnails. Where do we go from there with representation? This should be a hard line where this is just, we're at this point now where it's not that deep. The only reason why they bring up the black experience is because of what black people have dealt with just being in this country, for everything from slavery to racism, to the civil rights movement, to redlining, to Jim Crow era, to what feminism has done to the black community. Every dropping crack in the black community is like a fucking bomb. You know, like a la Oliver North and the Contras. I citate things of that nature. You can also listen to Freeway Rick Ross talk about how his connect was connected to, if I'm not mistaken, to government or CIA. He's actually said this out of his mouth. You know what I mean? And this is a gentleman that has a large, he is largely responsible for a lot of the drugs that came into the community. You know what I'm saying? So these are all information that is actually out there that he's done several interviews about. You know? And all the things that from every time black people tried to progress, that there was always someone advertently trying to stop their progression. We've had a history of it, from being called monkeys, from being told that we were stupid, to a lot of these operations that we do on human beings would have never been even tried before if they have not been using black bodies as guinea pigs for a lot of experimental operations. So when you have that kind of a history, and this is not like with just people, with the government, we had things on the books. Every time we make black people make milestones in progression, positive progression, because Lord knows they always want to citate us for everything that is negative. Then it makes sense why you would see them do this. It's almost like saying, damn it, we had such a fucked up history with these people, and we're finally not just acknowledging it, but it's more so we're getting out of their way and doing and working with that community, because we've stolen so much from them historically. And these are facts. So that's really where the celebratory angle come from. Like, you won't, even though it's good to see all Chinese acting, it'll never have the same energy. That's why Asians don't have these type of issues. They have their own country. It's completely different. The dynamics are completely different that nuance the perspective in such a and not even in a nuanced way, because a lot of it is very overt, a lot of nuance to it, but a lot of this is just on its face. I mean, for God's sake, we have people that are alive today that have still walked with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That still says a lot to how far we are from those days. So it doesn't beg any questioning why Hollywood would celebrate that with black people, because it's so much to that. But now we're trying to conflate it with all these other fringe groups, and you can see that it's not going to be, even though I'm sure the Asian community is going to love to see an all Asian MCU movie, let's be for real, it's not going to have the same sting, because the Chinese never had that kind of experience with American. Yeah, America. Have they experienced some level of racism? I'm sure, but it's not the level of racism that made it put it in the Webster's dictionary. Because it's going to really be some sort of level of discrimination and and they'll be labeled with certain stereotypes that's usually deemed positive to other people. But I can also understand if you're Asian and you're not the most academically strong, then those type of stereotypes can probably affect you in the life trying to live up to it. So I also can understand that, but at the same time, it's not the same thing. I say that to say this: Tessa has been pushing for this all-female, and I'll be honest with you, why? Because it's all-female. Why? What would constitute a necessity for an all-female squad? Don't get me wrong. I'm sure we could write an excellent film that could create that environment, but this constant necessity to toe tap and knee slap about an all female group while we've had Proud Mary. Proud Mary came out earlier this year and no one went to go see it. Where was the celebration for a black spy character? But yet we need this 007 with Lashana Lynch, which, to be honest, is not even an argument in it of itself, and we'll have that discussion later. But my point being is, we're like, oh, this is so progressive, but we've created an original character, Proud Mary, and no one went to go see that. Let's not act like we haven't worked on these type of characters. Shoot, there was I forgot the young lady that plays in the latest Tomb Raider. I already did kind of decent, but I don't think it's gonna get a part 2. That said, we've had that came out last year. You know, video game movie, but we're not toe tapping about it because it was a remake of one that came out early in the 2000s, which begs the question: how come in 2019 everybody's acting like, oh, it's a big deal to have a new female superhero when the thing is, you never came out to support it. Elektra came out in the 2000s. This is nothing new. Catwoman came out. We've had these, but these are films that, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is before we've had the more sophisticated superhero films, but they came out. The question was did you buy in? And that's where business comes in. Are you buying into what you claim and clamor about not being set up for you? And this is a very serious topic here, because I've seen too many people argue and complain and moan about it. We've had Supergirl. No one went to go see it. And because you did not go out to support it, especially during times when people are trying to make money, we might not do it again because they're not interested. Not enough women are coming to see it. They'll play up the women angle to see if it works. Sometimes it works a little bit. We had girl power moments in the 90s, but not the way we have it today, where we're pushing all these different levels and tierships of propaganda, suggesting that these people never exist. Gay actors have always existed. They may not have been open, but they've been there. You can't really argue that they were a subjugated people per se, because a lot of the people doing the subjugated were the homosexuals themselves, because they were closet homosexuals doing it to other people. If you want to make the argument, they were scared about them, that's neither here nor there. I mean, let's look at most pedophiles that we've seen are homosexual in nature. I mean, like these are the facts. I mean, you could look this up. So they can't say that they were a subjugated people per se. It's been a cultural taboo. And I'm not even going to say, and culturally, we've had inquisitions amongst those people that practice that. But that's pertaining to certain environments and certain cultures at certain periods of time, because there were times where that was highly celebrated. The Greco-Roman era, rampant. No one cared. So you can't put yourself on the same level as the black experience, which it seems like all these fringe groups always like to insert themselves into. When you are, and I think black people needs to start checking people every time they say, oh, kind of like being black. No. Oh, no, it kind of is. No, it's not at all. Because to talk about the black experience, you have to really break down a whole lot of stuff that you never was something you ever had to deal with, like ever. Now, in certain cultures, yeah, but you cannot. I would argue that you had less issues because it was something that you could even hide. When Jewish people try to hide amongst the average people what they had to do, the only thing that could really expose them was the circumcision. So it's very different, the experience. Very different. And let's be honest, how it was treated was completely different as well. That's why we have to make sure that we don't this is why I have issues with people playing with words and verbiages, because they're trying to piggyback off of real issues so that when you hear their fringe group's name, you think of other fringe group that have legitimate arguments. Because it's like, why do you think it's LGBT, all these other letters, when they all are different onto themselves? They'll tell you that. Because if you're trans, there's trans people that say they're straight because they feel like they're just in the wrong body. Then they will be very in 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 in, in in idea. They are completely anti or work in adverse towards a lot of lesbian and gay perspectives, because they are devoutly saying that they like their opposite sex. So that means that if I've even heard them arguing, it makes no sense to see a a transsexual, say a transgender woman, saying that they're lesbian with a real woman, if you will. I've heard them have arguments about it, which was fascinating to me, because when you had deeper thoughts about it, it was like kind of like your perspectives kind of run counter to each other. Because if you're saying that you you love the same exact sex, then if in a trans person saying, "Oh, this is just who I am in body," that means then a gay person would have to be like, "Well, I'm just gay. I don't want to mess with you because you're not the sex. You weren't born the sex that I have. So you'll actually have the same kind of issues that a straight person would have." Because it's almost like you have somebody that's saying that, "Oh, well, it shouldn't matter because I'm I'm this kind of way. I'm trans, and that shouldn't matter." And they're arguing that they want that to be changed even on their ID. Well, then if you're lesbian, wouldn't that rub you wrong if that's not a real woman? And then it opens up a big clusterfuck. Well, if that's the case, then we should be able to put them in the same jails with them. And I think recently we just had an issue with with that. I don't want to put too much. We'll talk about that in depth a little bit later. But my point being is that the reason why they bundled their whole experience together, because they wanted to have a bigger voice. But if you go into that arrogant, they don't work well. Even a lot of their ideas don't work well with each other in theory. And for what I understood now, as you start listening to some lectures where they start talking, you start to hear that, oh yeah, you guys have issues amongst yourselves. You do. That said, that's the reason why they'll bundle themselves up with other people. And that's why I don't like when they try to bundle themselves up with other people like black people, because your experiences are absolutely nothing like the black experience. But you'll do that because we know that black people have a legitimate claim to the civil rights experience, because they're the one that actually motivated, because they the one that had the real issues. We've seen the feminist community latch themselves onto the black experience so they could push their agendas and leave the other people that they're latching on to behind. Because you don't see those groups, maybe individuals from the group, but you don't see those groups coming out supporting them as much as they do when they say they're arguing their perspectives, and they say kind of like what black people went through. We don't see you come out to the. We didn't see you out here at the. We can't breathe. I'm more seeing you guys come out as organizations to like the Puerto Rican Day Parade before I ever see the organization or the Now organization come down and as an organization fight against what happened to Eric Garner. I say all that to say this: we're not the same, but they'll latch themselves onto it, and that's why I feel like you're seeing in the design of what's going on in film and media today. Everybody's going out of their way to say this is what we need: a LGBT character to incite that same feeling of what black people went through. Now, on a level, I could still understand, and I want to make a small caveat here. We still understand that we've never really seen, well, we've seen trans characters, they have their own films, but have we seen it at a large budget? No, but the so far up to this day, the mass at large don't come out in blockbuster numbers that, to support it. Have we tried it? A large blockbuster film? I can't say that we have. So I err on the side that we haven't, but we shall see. But my point isn't the fact that they shouldn't exist, and I want to I want to be very direct about it. It's not about that they shouldn't care. It shouldn't exist as films. I feel like make a film as long as the story's good, people will come to see it. And if they don't like that kind of story, they have the right not to go. That's their own. You can't force people to come to see a film that they're not interested in. But my point being is that I think that to go out of their way to put the idea first before the characters, before the necessity of the story, dilutes it, cheapens it, and makes it like you're putting the agenda first before the story. I don't want to feel like we need a black Spider-Man. I want to feel like, hey, let's make we don't want to mess with Spider-Man, but let's update Spider-Man. Let's do something different that we haven't done before. I want a different Peter Parker. I want him to, well, not different Peter Parker, excuse me. That should never be the way that you approach the a film. You should say, hey, we want to make a legacy character for Spider-Man, do something different with Spider-Man. So, hey, let's make a new Spider-Man. And that happens to be black, but will make it make sense in this history, because we already have a Peter Parker in the 616. We started the Ultimates. Let's do that. I don't like how he really came involved, because some guy came out because Childish Gambino said, hey, he wanted to play Peter Parker. It would have been a nice idea, and that kind of triggered the snowball effect for someone in Marvel to say, hey, let's create a black character that's also half Puerto Rican and put him in he'll come off, he could be the new legacy character for Spider-Man. I rather that idea as opposed to, they want a black Peter Parker? Well, let's make a black Peter Parker and call him Miles Morales. I don't want that kind of idea. Because for all of that, then just a guy like me, I don't care. I like Peter Parker. I don't need a fake version of Peter Parker. I like a new character. And if he happens to be a person that's going to carry on the name of Spider-Man, I don't think that's exactly tokenized, if that's the way we come at it. Because then by that logic, then Robin is a token character, because all he is a mini Batman. Batgirl would be these are just derivative characters. Now there is an argument that Spider-Man you could say is tokenized, because it started off the idea of a black actor saying that I wanted to play it, but people saying, well, why can't Peter Parker be black? And then it started off of that argument. So I will concede on some level you'd have a strong argument for it. I could still counter it, but there's a strong argument for it that could be seen as a token character. Why don't we just give you a black Spider-Man so you don't ever have to make a black Peter Parker? That's whack. But if you're like, hey, let's do something different in the Ultimate Universe. Let's kill Spider-Man off, but let's have his baton be picked up by another character. What makes that any different than what they did with Cindy Moon by inserting her into his back history? We've done this with a Captain America and said that there was a Tuskegee. They made an offshoot story where the original Captain America was black. It was I feel like that was more of an interesting story with historical effects to it, because they actually did try experiments on black people, Tuskegee experiments. So why not make that fit? It would be a cool idea. I feel like that's a cool idea first, as opposed to someone saying, "How can I make a black Captain America?" Falcon taking on the mantle of Captain America kind of makes sense because he was holding it down for him for quite some time. That if Captain America was to die or be removed, then we want to keep his name alive. Why not his best friend, either Bucky or Falcon? Because on different occasions they were both his best friends. Is that a token character? Not at all. But I think what Tessa is actually doing to bring it full circle is she's tokenizing her character by saying, as soon as you come into it, well, we need a LGBT because you're gay. We need it because you're gay. That's stupid. That's some self-centered shit. We need a trans character. Why? Isn't the point of a trans character supposed to be saying that they were just born in the wrong body? This is who they really are supposed to be, a real woman? That's your argument. So why do you need a trans character? Wouldn't you look up to a female character no different? Because you know you're different. And it gets confusing because if you're trying to sell the idea that you're just happen to be born in the wrong body, but we're women really, okay, then why do you need a trans woman character? Wouldn't you just look up to a biological woman? Like, I mean, where do we go with this? Oh, but I need a character that's just like, so then you're not a real woman. You know this. You can't have both. And this is my problem. You either one or the other, but you can't have both. Because then now you're just moving the goalposts, and you're just really being exactly with the people that don't support it. Because by your own definition, you're fighting within yourselves. Like, i.e., the situation with Scarlett Johansson. She's going to play a trans woman. What was the point in her playing a trans woman? Because it's a man or a trans man. I think that's what it is. So a lot of these trans men, they kind of have delicate features because they were born females. You could kind of see it. So all they have to do is put some makeup on and you could kind of create that aesthetic. I don't know a lot of trans great actors. No one does. I can understand, well, they're out there, we should look for them, cool, but then what roles would they be playing? Trans characters? Then you'll never get a larger audience unless they trying to play regular people, and which would kind of go into acting. And if they're going to play regular people, then does it matter? See, this is where we have these issues. And please don't bring up, oh, but if Black Panther was a white person, that's a mute argument. It's a fucking mute argument. The character's tied to that aesthetic, to a black male aesthetic. Like Latveria. I mean, well, I guess you could say there could be a black Latverian. I mean, you could say there's white Wakandans, but the story in and of itself, they existed without any colonial penetration. That's the story. Now you could argue the Thor thing, and which I think is right. But then you could also argue, if you look at a lot of Roman characters, a lot of these big guys that made names back in the day were, some of them were black or some sort of admixture black, but they're portrayed as white characters. But I won't even want to play with that. I didn't see the point in having any black Asgardians per se, outside of the fact that you can have black Asgardians, I guess no different than there's people everywhere, but at the same time, it's Norse mythology. I wouldn't expect to see a black person there at all. But at the same time, you can still argue because we've seen this in a lot of historical references that a lot of cultures that were predominantly white, there were some of their heroes were historically, I think like Hannibal, if I'm not mistaken, this historical figure named Hannibal. There's arguments that he was actually really black, and whether we're and because I don't have any information pulled up right now, let's just talk for the sake of this argument. There are a lot of historical references of that being there. I mean, we could even citate the Bible that even whether you believe that he was real or not, it was written in the Bible how he looked like, and the portrayals of him, that's not him at all, at all. And again, I ask the question now, if that's not him at all, isn't that the same thing? You know what I mean? So it's possible that you can have a black character that was there in Norse mythology that was just depicted white. You can have an argument for it, but it's not the hill that I'm willing to die on. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna live and die on that hill. You know what I mean? Just to be consistent. I have no I would have never even have thought to change Hemdel's ethnicity. I'm old school. I come from comics. I rather the character look like the comic. But I do think under certain special circumstances, if the actor can portray the character the way it's needed for this story better than anyone else, I think that should be up to the artist's design. But I don't think it should be done for political pandering. That's my point. I'm not into political pandering. I'm not into identity politics. If you want to give me a black Johnny Storm, the best answer for it Josh Trank ever made was, what made you go with Michael B. Jordan for Johnny Storm? Because Michael B. Jordan just is Johnny Storm. And that made me feel different about it when they casted him as a black Johnny Storm. I thought it was an interesting perspective because it seemed like that's just how he looked at it. So, and in this day and age, yeah, you can have a white sister via fostership or even biracial. And that you can have two half brothers, half siblings. I mean, the way we're having our households now, it's not too uncommon to have for a white brother to have a biracial brother that looks more black than he even does white. Like, this isn't new. So, with that being said now, that is where you can have the argument, well, there's no real reason not to. I asked myself, was there a reason not to? Well, we've done a certain incarnation already. We've done the traditional incarnation already. I felt like, why don't we try something very different? Because these are the characters. The only difference is the racial component, or maybe one we might have changed, and that's just because we had an excellent actor that made us look at the story and say, hey, you know what, we could make this work, as opposed to I want to be progressive. Who's a great black actor that we can have to be our black Johnny Storm? That I don't like. And I think this is where we're gonna leave it for the Bundy Network. I'm gonna really dig deep. I'm gonna use this as a preset to the Tessa Thompson thing. I'm gonna actually read the article a little bit more, but I already know what she did with the whole idea of wanting to have a female Avengers story, which I'm not mad at, but I don't want you to sell me on the idea before, because then it's like you're pushing this. Women never did anything, and it's like, you've done stuff. Stop doing that. Y'all come off weak as fuck. Because there's people that's been part of this culture, the comic book in comic book movie culture, and that loves just excellent films and action films. And we've supported female led stories. Shit, there was a Bad Girls was a fucking all female cowboy western. And to be honest, it's one of my favorite. Even though I'm not a big western person, I that's like probably one of my top five, if not my top three westerns I've ever watched that I actually like. I love it. I don't know a lot of women that went to go see it. I don't think my sister even. I'm sure she watched it with me at one point, but I'm sure she don't remember have fond memories of it like I do. I love that film. We've had Charlie's Angels. We've had so many kick-ass female characters, and we had strong female characters. They ain't never had to pick up a sword. They were just strong, like Joy Luck Club. Like, I get tired of us acting like a traditionally feminine character is not strong. It almost makes you start really believing in this old phrase I heard, which I used to hear the word penis envy. It's starting to really come to fruition now. Because if you only find strength in females projecting masculine traits, then that's kind of on you. I've seen very strong females, none of which had to exemplify anything that was traditionally male. They were just strong. What's the sister's name from Imitation of Life? Watch that. You know, the mother was a strong character, and this is black and white. She was a maid. She was the strongest character. This was a mother that was a maid to a white couple back in a racial time, but her white couple, they were real nice to her. They liked her. They even loved her as a family member. They had a daughter. Both of them had daughters, the maid and her, but the maid had a biracial daughter that could pass as white. And then she grew up and was besties, if you will, with the white family that they lived with, because it was, I think they lived with them too, because the mother was an in-house maid. Her mother was in-house maid, and they loved her like a family member. But they were dealing with racial issues, and the maid's biracial daughter didn't want to be associated with her mother. The mother would actually kindly allow herself to look like the maid, so her daughter could live her quote unquote best life during a time where living her quote unquote best life might not have attributed her to embracing her black half of herself, her blackness, her black mother overtly. And I don't want to spoil it, but if you watch this film all the way to the end, the mother was the black mother was a very strong and very powerful character. And she didn't need to have a two gun slow-mo action. And who's Antoine Fuqua? Who's the guy that filmed Mission Impossible 2 back in the day, with the doves flying everywhere? The director of I think he was also the director of Face Off. Let me look him up too while I'm talking, because I get mad when I keep forgetting his name. So let me look this up. Director of MI2. Mission Impossible. Oh, Brian De Palma did the first one? Oh no, it's Christopher McQuarrie did directed the first one. Oh no, that's the most recent one. Yeah. So Brian De Palma did the first one. Oh, okay, yeah, the 1996 one. So let's see who did two. John Woo, my bad. John Woo. Why I keep getting Antoine Fuqua and John Woo mixed up? But with the doves flying, two-gun action, she didn't do that. She was a woman, or and wrapped in her own femininity. She was a mother. She was very regal, very classic, and stoic, and a strong female character. Like I said, if the only way you can see strength is in when females emulate masculinity, then you're the one that finds strength in masculinity and is assuming weakness on femininity. Like right now, I could go around the way. There's a little girl that she plays basketball with the bros. And sometimes you catch her with her nails done and she's out there playing her basketball with the bros. And you can see her. She's very effeminate, but she plays basketball. And she like to play her basketball. But I seen her out here with her nails done and she bouncing the ball, and they kids out there playing. I don't see no one complaining to her. I don't even see guys going out there with, I'm gonna post up on her and knock her on her tailbone. It's not that deep, guys. Once you show that you have an appreciation, you're like part of the coven, and you might have to go through a mild form of a haze, and you have to be able to hold your own amongst dudes. But when guys feel like you can hold your own amongst them, it's not a problem to kick it with the bros. Most guys don't really care. That said, my point being is when you put your agenda ahead of your film, you cheapen the film. It comes off cheap. It comes off like a ploy. It comes off like we're just going out. We're not interested in a serious story. We're more interested in and so, like I said, that said, I just want us to. I would love for the industry to treat these characters as if you really want to tell some awesome stories, and we're not getting wrapped up in. Just give us the characters. Like if she's going to get a girlfriend in them, I don't care. Just give it to us. I don't want it to be this big shit. The first LGBTI. Who cares? Who the fuck cares? Give us the movie. And if that's in it, that's in it. We're all adults, man. I don't see the extra shit because it seems like you're going out of your way to do this adverse to what already is. Like what was already is was a bad thing. And that's the energy you're kind of perpetuating that's creating a lot of these toxic fandoms. Because I can't stand these toxic fandoms. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to do one just about the toxic fandom. But I'm going to just throw it in. I can't stand toxic fandom. I can't stand these niggas. But you also, every time when you do shit like this, you're also showing why they do what they do. You're legitimizing their angst. That said, I'm gonna leave it here. We're gonna this is one for the Bundy. I really want to put something out for Bundy. I'm gonna do a lot of Bundy videos because I've been neglecting my this channel because I really wanted to have a streamlined focus on what I wanted to have accomplished on this channel. I want us to really have a lot of good conversations of the times, very male oriented, which is straight no chase, less feeling oriented, more about more logically driven. But that said, I'm gonna leave it here. Let me know what you guys think. Do you feel the same way? Would you rather? Are you guys that feel like me more or have issues with this? Is it better articulated that you just want them to give you the movie, stop selling you the lifestyle attached to it? Give me a movie with these type of characters in it, but stop selling the lifestyle of these people to me through these characters. Because no one cares about that. If someone is like that, they'll champion it. But we don't need to sell people on the lifestyle through the characters. Sell the characters that happen to have these lifestyles. You know, make make great characters that have, I mean, these great films where these type of characters happen to be in it, as opposed to let's make this kind of movie and let's find characters in it, those type of characters in it, because it's like you're trying to sell me something. Sell me the movie, not the lifestyle nor the characters that's involved. Sell me a good movie with good solid characters, and whatever they happen to be, I'll figure out if I enjoy them or not when I go see it. That's that. Otherwise, you already couching the terms and you're letting the agenda come out first and having everybody run a shitstorm around it. And it doesn't make any sense. At least not to me. But what do you guys think? Do you feel that I'm articulating it best? Because I feel like this is what the real issue people are having. And if I'm not, tell me I'm full of shit. Leave it all in below. I like to hear a lot of diverse opinions. People from the other community. I have no problem if you guys chime in, talk, even ask some questions. I mean, I want this to be even though this is a very male-oriented environment and space and platform, you know, we're not a bunch of bitches neither. Like, we don't care if you anybody from anywhere come listen to what we're saying. Just also remember, you're coming into our environment. So we want to be able to speak the way we speak. You know what I mean? Like, very direct. We ain't got time for people to be fainting because we call something for what it is. No, like, because then we can't have a dialogue. And I have no problem with open dialogues with anyone, because if you not listen to this long ass winded diatribe or that I have, I wouldn't want to classify it as a rant. You clearly see that we don't really care on this side in terms of the movie. We just everybody has their own perspective, and we respect everyone's perspective. But if you're gonna come here and talk to us, you have to also understand we're speaking with our perspective. Like, if I come to on your platform, I'd have to be careful in how I speak, because I want to respect the platform that I'm at, because I still have to have a dialogue. And if people are easily triggered off of everything that I say, I just won't come to your platform, because I don't know how else to talk to you. You know what I mean? But you could come to my platform, because this is how we talk. And I like to think we talk very respectable on this side. I don't have a lot of videos, but you'll see this is a very respectable environment. And we just chop up game, and we keep it all the way 100 and trill. So like, share, subscribe, and let me know what you think. Till next time, it's Bundy.